Today on Cinema and Cocktails, we go behind the Iron Curtain into one of my favorite genres, organized crime. But these are not your typical gangster movies involving the Russian mob. The first is A Vacation Gone Horribly Wrong in Transsiberian, starring Woody Harrelson, Emily Mortimer, and the incomparable Ben Kingsley. Eastern Promises stars Viggio, Mortenson, and Naomi Watts in an emotional tale of deception, retribution, and moral judgment. Both can be found on the Peacock app via your cable provider. I don't even need to say anything, because after both of these movies, you're going to need a drink. So let's watch them, mix them, and drink them. A Transsiberian train journey from China to Moscow becomes a heck of a ride when an American couple encounters a mysterious pair of fellow travelers. You know, at first, it doesn't really sound like much of a story, but as always, we know what makes a good movie. Not only does the story have to be legit, but you gotta have some good actors in it. So let's take a look at who is setting the table for this wonderful event. We're going to first start off with Woody Harrelson. Okay, Woody Harrelson plays Roy, and this is a guy that needs no introduction. I mean, 104 credits, acting credits to his name. Started way back in 1978. Even I didn't know that. I remember when he first appeared in Wildcats as that guy Krasinski. I think he was like a linebacker or something. I first fell in love with Woody Harrelson when I saw him in White Men Can't Jump. As kept calling him, what was his name? Wesley Snipes kept calling him Billy Ho, Billy Hoyle. I don't know, man. His character was so cool, so chill. I mean, maybe it was because he was this guy that had this slick jump shot, or maybe it was because he was dating the it girl at that time, Rosie Perez. My heart was broken for him in Indecent Proposal, outside Demi Moore. Man, that was just him and Robert Redford. That was just, it was good ending, but man, you just felt that. Remember that scene when he was all drunk and he swung at Robert Redford and fell down in the rain, and Demi Moore just looked at him and walked off. Oh my God. It was brutal. Just flat out brutal. He was the absolute coolest in Natural Born Killers, as Mickey Knox with Juliette Lewis, the old Mickey and Mallory tour. He was great in The People vs. Larry Flint. Absolutely hilarious in Kingpin, that one-armed dude, the guy with the hook, Roy Munson. I didn't know that he was in Will and Grace for a while. I totally lost track of him for a while. Played a very interesting role in a film called The Messenger. I don't know how many of you all have seen that. He plays this guy named Captain Tony Stone, and he's actually responsible for telling families about the death of loved ones in Iraq. Man, it's an interesting walk. It's a tough walk. So I'll just leave it at that. Was completely depraved as a cop in Rampart, and he was he was great in The Hunger Games. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal in True Detective. If you haven't seen True Detective, hey man, get it HBO Max, do it HBO. You got to watch it. Him and Matthew McConaughey are simply sublime. Fantastic. But for all of that stuff of Woody Harrelson, he will forever be known as Woodrow Huckleberry Tiberius Boyd, a.k.a. Woody, from his run on Cheers. Emily Mortimer plays Jessie, and she's got a very solid 78 credits to her name. She's been in the game since 1994. She's a British actress, so most of her stuff is international. She did appear in The Ghost in the Darkness opposite Michael Douglas way back in the day. She was in Match Point with Scarlett Johansson. She had a small role in that masterpiece, Shutter Island, and she was great in Chaos Theory. So if you haven't seen Chaos Theory, go check it out. But she was really heartwarming and tough in this movie called Leone. It was a biopic about this American educator who was the mother of like a famous artist. And it's a very, heartwarming tale about what she had to overcome and endure, being involved in an interracial marriage way back in the day. It's definitely worthwhile checking out. Eduardo Noriega has been also in a solid 60 films. He plays Carlos Jimenez, another international star. He got a lot of recognition from being in Vantage Point, which was okay. I don't know. I thought Vantage Point had such potential, but it just kind of played out with too many unconvincing possibilities. The Aristotle Index. He was fantastic as Che Guevara when he played in a film about Che Guevara. And he was also in The Last Stand in another film called For the Good of Others. I really haven't seen a lot of his stuff, so I'm just going to go ahead and be honest. Ben Kingsley. Enough said. Flat out, excuse me, not Ben Kingsley, Sir Ben Kingsley. Flat out Hollywood royalty, okay? 143 acting credits going all the way back to 1966. What has he not been great in, okay? Starting back with Betrayal, Testimony. He was so good in Schindler's List, I had to actually go back and look at his character, good old Ishtak Stern, and realize that it was him. He was completely unhinged in that gangster film, Sexy Beast. Loved him in Lucky Number 11 as the rabbi. Showed a lot of skill and nuance in this love story called Elegy. If you haven't seen Elegy, that's worth checking out as well. It's him and Penelope Cruz. It's great stuff. He was also in Shutter Island. But Ben will forever be, remembered for his transformative role as the Mahatma in the epic Gandhi. Last but not least is Kate Mara with a very solid as well 65 credits to her resume. She is a grinder. I've just recently fallen in love with Kate as an actress, but I did not know that she had started in the game back in 1997. She actually was in television, was on the TV series 24. She was opposite Mark Wahlberg in Shooter. Had no idea that she was in Entourage. She was another actress that was in American Horror Story. Oh, for the love of it. You know what? I'm going to take some time out this weekend and I'm going to watch American Horror Story because this is insane. I mean, everybody has been on this doggone show. She did dip her toe in the superhero pool when she was Sue Storm in the Fantastic Four. She was in The Martian. And now she's about to star in this TV series. I think it's on FX called A Teacher. Now, if you haven't seen A Teacher, you have to watch it. I think it might be on Netflix. It could be on Amazon. I'm not sure, but it is worth it. It's about 88 minutes long. It's short. And when you watch it, it basically focuses on this kind of relationship that a teacher has with a student that just kind of unravels and gets more and more complicated. But the TV series picks up right where the movie ends. So in order for you to watch the TV series, you have to watch the movie first to kind of really get an idea of what's about to happen, along with the story itself. But I thought it was A Teacher was a sleeper hit. Most people overlooked it because they didn't know what it was about, or they looked like it was just too short. But it's really, really a good movie. But, for all intents and purposes, I think most of us will forever remember Kate Mara as the incomparable Zoe Barnes on House of Cards. Oh, if you haven't seen House of Cards, you know what? I'll just keep quiet because it was just, I think most of us who saw that series are still kind of holding our breath after what we saw happen to her as the series went along. So I'll leave it at that. Oh boy. The development of all these characters. Roy's character didn't really need much of an arc. When you watch the movie, he's kind of plays like the role, I don't want to say like an innocent fool, but he's definitely like a naive tourist. And he has a very soft husband-like manner about him. But as the film begins to progress, you kind of see him develop this kind of inner courage that his wife was hoping that he would have. But he was very believable as an unassuming guy on this tourist, an unassuming tourist on this thrill ride. Jessie, his wife, when we first introduced to Jessie, it's kind of weird. Like her arc is it's a very complex one because she's automatically, when you see her, you kind of sense that there's this devious side to her, and she kind of explains herself briefly in some passing conversations with other characters. But in the end, I think she does kind of reveal who she actually truly is. And that's, through the circumstances that the film pulls out of her. Carlos, man, I don't know how to even describe Carlos. When he first gets on the screen, I automatically thought of him as a very kind of smarmy kind of guy, a lot of ulterior motives. There was like this whole duplicitous nature just kind of emanated from his being, the way he looked at people. I mean, you automatically think he's up to something when you see how he interacts with everybody. Gringo, the cop, has a very flat arc, but there's a reason why. And the only shift in him as the movie travels on is that you'll see how more determined and angry he gets as the movie moves forward. And as far as Abby goes, she also has another flat arc. Her silence is a very telling aspect of her character. It's like she's kind of hiding something about why she's on the train or why she's traveling or what she's doing. And it's almost like she doesn't really like what she's having to be involved with, but she accepts it as the life that she has chosen, unfortunately. The dialogue in this film, I thought, was wonderfully done. The conversation seems very, very real. Nothing seems forced or contrived. And each one of those conversations, when you see them interact in a scene of a movie, it's like you really don't have an idea of what the characters' motives and thoughts are. And you kind of watch it unfold as they try to hide their intentions from each other with these kind of vague responses to different types of inquiries. So it's almost like watching like a verbal chess game as each person kind of tries to guess what the other person's next move is. It's very well crafted. I thought it was really, really cool. And that kind of brings us into what is this film really about? There's several conflicts being portrayed when you watch this. The most of them focus around the protagonist, Jesse. Jesse versus Roy, Jesse versus Carlos, Jesse versus Gringo, Jesse versus herself. Okay. When I looked at it, I kind of saw it as, she's up against her husband because, she's going on this trip, which is kind of like a retreat because she's having problems in her marriage. She has this conflict with Carlos because, as any guy who comes across an attractive woman, he has his own ideas and he tries to make advances. And that's a whole nother discussion. And when it comes to Jesse versus Gringo, the cop is trying to find out information about something and she's kind of hiding that. So there's like a little conflict going on there. And through all of this, she seems to be having her own internal issues with her own kind of, devious nature about things that she's done and trying to be true to herself and being true to her marriage and being true to just who Jesse is as a person. So I think there's a lot of conflicts going on with this. The plot type is very simple. Jesse has a problem, or dude with a problem, or chick with a problem, however you want to describe it. And she is part of the reason this problem is created. Okay. She knows things that she's not supposed to know. She's done some things along the way. Gringo, as the antagonist is, as the cop is kind of, he's a tough dude and he's not going to stop at anything to get what he's looking for. And his evil nature really is only matched by the wrath and willingness, to do whatever it takes to get what he wants. Thematically, I thought there was two major themes in this. One of them is a redemption theme. The other is more of a transformation kind of theme. From a redemptive standpoint, I thought something kind of haunts Jessie. It doesn't allow her to be her true self in her marriage. And, she needs to try to find something that is, I don't know, that pulls her true emotion out for her husband. It's almost kind of like she's in this marriage, but she's kind of going through the motions and you're constantly wondering like, why? What is it that is not allowing her to be who she's supposed to be as a, doting wife? The transformation thematic part comes from where I think that a lot of these characters are going through some circumstances that change them. Okay. I think Abby and Roy and Jesse are all transformed by the events that happen on this train. Roy's innocence and as a traveling idiot along and Jesse being totally naive to Carlos and his advances. And, from the start, you're really not quite sure who Abby is, but as the movie goes along, all of those things are transformed. All their personality quirks, they are brought to, I guess you could say, a transformative head when the climax of the film plays itself out. And so they all begin to realize who exactly they really are as they are dealing with the things that are coming towards them. So it's kind of hard to explain, but you just, you got to see it. From a structure standpoint, the film is perfectly balanced. In the first act, Roy, Jesse, Gringo, Carlos, Abby are all introduced. In the second act, things get a little bit complicated when it's kind of revealed